What's so funny?
It's just thinking of a joke.
Many were puzzled by the Joker's final joke, which he claims we can't understand. I'm sure it's primarily addressed to us, to the audience, and secondarily to the woman sitting in front of Arthur. So why can't we get the final joke? Is it because the joke is not for average minds? Or does it have a special, sophisticated construction? Or is it just about the subjectivity of humor? To figure this out, let's take a closer look at the details of the movie. Among these details, we can notice the strange context in which the final joke becomes the logical ending of his performance for him, and an unsolvable mystery for us. First of all, let's consider the question: what does the Joker find funny? In the scene at the comedy club, we see that Arthur has absolutely no understanding of the humor of the comedian speaking. His laughter is just a belated echo, a reaction to the laughter of the crowd. It's an imitation. People are laughing. Arthur looks around and acts the same way. In this scene, it's as if there is an invisible wall between Arthur and the audience, which hints that even though he is the center of the room, he is separated from the normal perception of humor. In his diary, he records what he thought the audience was going crazy about. People love funny observations. Work the crowd. Dress nice but casual. Maintain eye contact. And of course, slick your hair. Sexy jokes are always funny. And it's no wonder Arthur has no idea what makes ordinary people laugh, because he laughs at completely different things. As we know, Arthur's mother, Penny, was in a mental hospital. From her medical records, we learn about the Joker's childhood. His mother's boyfriend used to beat up little Arthur, but Penny did nothing about it. She only chained him to a radiator. According to her words, recorded in her medical records, Arthur was a very cheerful child, always smiling and laughing, especially when they beat him. In early childhood, Arthur's psyche is breaking down. He begins to laugh in response to cruelty, violence, pain, and injustice. This is his defensive reaction. When you look at the Joker's spontaneous bursts of laughter, it is obvious that they do not occur in a random, chaotic manner. They occur only in response to pain and social injustice. Moreover, it doesn't matter who this injustice is directed at, him or others. He laughs when 3 scumbags harass a girl on the subway. He laughs twice when his midget friend is being bullied.
Punch him in the dick, Gary.
When he is attacked on the bus, when he finds out that Thomas Wayne is not his father, when he realizes he doesn't really have a girlfriend, when he tries to talk about his pain.
I never heard him cry. He's always been such a happy little boy.
And he just bursts out laughing when he finds out the reason why the pain makes him laugh. He finally learns that his mother is a foster mom and that he was beaten as a child. In a special moment for Arthur, at his first stand-up performance, he tries to talk about his high school years with a special pain. That is, with a special burst of laughter. He says he hated going to school.
I hated school as a kid.
Apparently, he was bullied severely at school. That's when he decided to bring violence into the world in response. Because violence makes him laugh. This is what he talks about throughout the movie. That since childhood, he has dreamed of being a comedian, a prankster, a joker. This means that he has dreamed of being violent, to wreak havoc, and even to kill since he was a child. He writes about this in his diary. The psychiatrist asked him to write a diary, to tell about his pain and his negative thoughts. But, as Arthur said, all he has are negative thoughts. And that's true. There are truly frightening things in the pages of his diary. Almost every page contains words about death and drawings of body parts being stabbed with knives and arrows. Strange figures resembling caricatured spectators seem to be silently watching Arthur's performance, sneering at someone's death. But this diary is also his notebook containing jokes. So symbolic. At first, Arthur writes about his pain, but eventually he begins to accept himself. He begins to enjoy the thoughts of violence and murder. For this reason, he put a picture of Thomas Wayne in his pain notebook. He was going to kill him. For him, it turns into a joke. In the diary, we can see an entire monologue dedicated to the dead man lying on the sidewalk, being stepped over by everyone. And of course, the legendary joke.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
It's the police, ma'am. Your son's been hit by a drunk driver. He's dead.
Arthur thought his pills weren't working, so he asked for more to be prescribed. But Arthur was wrong. The pills worked, and his craving for violence subsided. Because of the medication, he couldn't enjoy the pain. He stopped enjoying the thoughts of violence. His bursts of laughter became empty. No satisfaction.
I have negative thoughts.
And as soon as his psychiatrist was dismissed and the access to pills ended, everything returned to normal for Arthur.
I feel good. I stopped taking my medication. I feel a lot better now.
See how the atmosphere in the frame changes after giving up his medication? The light becomes more contrasting, and the city noise outside the window seems to support his inner madness. For Arthur, this is a signal. Now he is truly in his role as a comedian, and his final joke is already waiting to go on stage. Arthur dreamed of being like Murray Franklin. He had been a fan since childhood. He watched him enter the studio, dancing to the music, making jokes, and then dancing away. So after committing his first kills, the Joker dances as if completing his performance, just like his idol. He dances before the kill, entering the improvisational stage. And he dances after the murder, rhythmically tap dancing. Over time, the dance becomes more and more expressive. Arthur becomes an increasingly accomplished showman. Through all these murders, Arthur realizes his dream of becoming a comedian, the Joker. It's no coincidence that the comedy club he performs at is called Pogo's. This is a pretty dark allusion to a real clown with such a nickname, John Gacy, a serial maniac who killed a lot of people, was behind the pseudonym. The media called him the Killer Clown. This hints that the Joker is not an ordinary clown, and his humor occupies a place at the intersection of comedy and cruelty. Think back to the moment when he brought a gun to his performance in front of the kids at the hospital. Arthur dropped the gun for a reason. He thought the audience would appreciate his joke with the weapon. At this point, the gun becomes a prop for his show, not just a means of violence. Penny told him from childhood that he was born to bring laughter and joy to people. And this theme, the parallels between comedy and tragedy, plays out throughout the movie in different colors, starting with the very first frame. Arthur pulls on the two classic ancient theater masks of comedy and tragedy. For him, tragedy is comedy, and vice versa. With these very words, he kills his mother, who was the root cause of his disorder.
I used to think that my life was a tragedy. But now I realize it's a fucking comedy.
In this shot, the sun seems to appear for the first time. The room is just flooded with light. In this scene, Arthur finally accepts himself. For him, the world is mirrored. Even when he is brutally beaten in an alley, he reaches for his sign, thinking that maybe he can fix it. But then, an amazing thing happens. He puts his hand on the button, and a small trickle of water comes out of the flower in his pocket. Even in this cruel and sad moment, he managed to bring a little piece of comedy. At the end of the movie, in front of the crowd, his audience, He dances and then pulls on a bloody mask of comedy. In ancient times, theater actors used to wear masks of comedy and tragedy to make it easier for the audience to understand what role the actor was playing and whether they were supposed to cry or laugh. And the Joker's makeup hints at this as well. In fact, his makeup turns the streets into a stage and the crowd into an audience that can't recognize what genre is in front of them. And they're supposed to laugh amid all this chaos and violence embodied by the Joker. This mirroring is directly reflected in Arthur. As the story progresses, as Arthur accepts himself, he also mirrors himself, transforming from right-handed to left-handed. At a certain point, we can see this transition. While writing the jokes, Arthur shifts his pen from his right hand to his left hand and finishes his troubling thoughts. The change of hand is a symbol that he is changing his perspective on reality. Now, he is not trying to fit into the norms. He is writing his comedy differently. At first, he picks up the gun with his right hand, with some apprehension and uncertainty, and then shifts it to his left, and, full of determination, points the gun at his imaginary interlocutor. This is when he makes the decision to kill Murray Franklin and symbolically take his place as a showman. The arrangement of the furniture in his room is very similar to the arrangement in the comedy show's studio. Arthur fires an imaginary shot in the direction where Murray will later sit. At the moment of the actual murder, the gun was in his left hand. The Joker's motives for killing Murray are quite simple. Arthur says that Murray is a terrible person, but not because of his moral ugliness. Arthur kills him because Murray is a bad dancer.
Hey, Arthur. You're a really good dancer. No, it's not him.
And he confirms the same thing on the subway. He didn't kill the 3 white-collar guys because they were bullying the girl, and not even because they beat him up. He actually finds that hilarious. He kills them because they are singing falsely. He also says their deaths are ridiculous, and he's tired of pretending they're not. And Joker's final words to Murray are another joke. What do you get if you ignore a mentally ill person and treat them like garbage?
Call the police,
I'll
Gene.
tell you what you
Call
get.
the police.
Get what you fucking deserve.
Arthur kills him and laughs. Here's his final joke, and it's very simple. The Joker is a comic showman who performs by killing. He craved attention, but everyone ignored him. And now his comedy has been heard by millions. Of course, we can argue whether he killed Murray and the 3 yuppies because of an intense sense of injustice, or because they were really bad dancers and singers. After all, Arthur thinks he's a much better dancer, and the performance of the others is too lame. Here he is, the Joker, a brilliant comedian, but everyone ignores him. And we come to the final point. What's the joke that a psychiatrist wouldn't get? There can only be one answer. Her death. A simple and hilarious joke for the Joker. He hums a tune from Murray Franklin's show, either thinking back to the last murder or just creating some sort of stage and studio for himself in his imaginary comedy show. And repeating the Joker's words in Murray's studio, here he is, a mentally ill man, and here she is, a woman who doesn't care about him, who treats him like garbage. Did he kill her for that? Or maybe he didn't like her outfit. It doesn't really matter. As with any absurd performance, we can look for logic. But the Joker's joke is just another act of violence, elevated by him to a level of comedy performance beyond common sense. The essence of the joke doesn't change. We wouldn't get it. But there's one thing we can hardly disagree with Joker on. Humor is subjective. The story is simple, and that's the beauty of it. The protagonist is a psycho who just laughs at violence. No more, no less. The Joker movie blurs the line between tragedy and comedy. The world is ridiculously ugly. People are blind to each other's problems, and no one is willing to put themselves in another person's shoes. The reality in the movie is a crooked mirror which reflects the distortion of all our ideas about justice, morality, joy, and pain. Sometimes you don't even know whether you should cry or laugh.